The murder of Cassandra Cantrell. The prime suspect was my dungeon master for D&D. I knew he didn't like kids. I knew he could snap and kill someone. I just thought it would be someone that would actually deserve it and not someone he accidentally got pregnant. Anatoly Moskvin, a mentally ill man who had 29 human dolls, girls' corpses bundled up, who he believed spoke to him and wanted him to take them out of the cold ground, bring them in, and warm them up. The creepiest part is that he lived with his parents and they didn't realize what he was up to somehow. Luis Garavito. He admitted to murdering and raping over 100 young boys in Colombia, but it is suspected that there are more victims. Because it was in Colombia and there is a maximum sentence that a person can receive, there is a possibility that he could be released. He is currently in his 60s, so still able to overpower a younger boy, especially if he is armed. His ruse was also to pretend to be an old man that needed help to lure the boys away from safety, and that would be really convenient if he was actually older. What he did was horrible and I really hope he rots in prison for the rest of his life. And Hamilton-Byrne, who convinced people she was Jesus Christ reincarnated, led the Doomsday Sect with her husband Bill Hamilton-Byrne from 1963 to 1987. The cult was made famous by images of children with bleached blonde bowl cuts and matching outfits. The children were drugged with LSD and subject to beatings. They ate a strictly vegetarian diet and did lots of yoga and exercise. They were brought up to think they would take over the world when it collapsed, which the cult leaders said was imminent. The children in the cult were not all blood relatives, and the Hamilton-Byrnes were not their parents. Some of the babies were willingly handed over to their care. Other children were taken from young mothers who were shamed from having babies out of wedlock. She would go to psychiatric hospitals and give LSD to patients and tell them she was Jesus and get them to join her cult. She has high-end members of the society, doctors, lawyers and teachers that she was set. That's how she got the children. She even killed 5 people. But Ms. Hamilton-Byrne was arrested in the US with the help of the FBI in 1993, but was only prosecuted for minor offenses in Australia. She was never charged with abuse, but fined $5,000 for falsifying the documents of 3 of the children. Brittany Drexel. She was 17 and went missing at Myrtle Beach while on a vacation with some very fake friends. The thing is, she was texting her boyfriend as she was walking the strip alone and stopped responding. After only 10 minutes, her boyfriend gets in touch with her parents, who get the police involved, but there's very little info to go on. And those friends she was with weren't being very helpful. She was grabbed off a crowded street and literally never seen again. They get a bit of info from her phone with the last ping being on the way to a swamp, but said swamp is home to alligators, so searching came up with nothing. This happened in 2009 and for a while, the major consensus from the FBI was that she was abducted, trafficked, and then killed and dumped in the swamp. The case of Silvio S. in Germany. He kidnapped a refugee child, abused him, and strangled him. They found masks, used condoms, ropes and cat litter to reduce the smell of the little corpse. It came out that he had killed and buried another child who had been missing for some time. He had put a black mask on the child and wanted to reenact child pornography scenes. He also strangled the child. I can't get over how absolutely disgusting a person can be. And then with innocent children who didn't even have the slightest chance. In court he didn't want to know anything about it and covered his ears. The story of 13-year-old Jamie Kloss actually made my skin crawl, and it was relatively recent. Young girl Jamie was kidnapped by a man that had worked with her father once or twice, but he had seen her getting onto a school bus and developed an obsession. The man broke into her family home and shot her father point blank with a shotgun, killing him instantly. Jamie and her mother ran upstairs and hid in a bathroom, which the man soon broke into. Jamie's mother covered her daughter with her own body in the bathtub and tried to plead with the man, but he shot her dead and took Jamie. Jamie was then kept under the man's bed in a hunting cabin for 88 days until she was able to crawl out and run down the road and find help. No amount of therapy is going to make this girl okay again. The Iceman was pretty sick. I read a book about him. One part talks about a mob guy whose daughter was raped. He wanted the rapist to suffer before he died. The Iceman kidnapped him and took him somewhere out in the woods where he would go as a kid. Iceman knew the area was loaded with rats, because he would leave meat out there and watch them devour it as a kid. So he ties the rapist to a tree and proceeds to cut him and put some kind of meat over him. The rapist apparently was eaten alive by the rats. He also filmed it for the mob guy. I have one that doesn't keep me up, but makes me always check my windows and doors. There was a guy who would not go into homes with locked doors because he saw an unlocked door as a welcome and a locked door as a denial. He literally would go into unlocked homes and assault/kill the people he found because he thought they were inviting him. People who break in are dangerous, but for some reason that crazy reasoning makes me lock my doors always. The Soham Murders, 2002. During the extensive search for two missing 10-year-old girls, the media interviewed many local residents. One man, Ian Huntley, in particular, who was the last to see the girls before their disappearance, was interviewed numerous times during the 2-week search, becoming somewhat of an unofficial spokesman for the community. You can still watch a lot of his interviews online. His constant media presence caused some of his acquaintances to notice the lies in his story, which they reported to the, already suspicious, police. So creepy to read his ever-changing accounts of what happened to those poor girls, and especially to watch his interviews with hindsight.